doing, Aries? What are you doing? You gonna get them squirrels? Alright, I'm gonna be reviewing 3 products today, essentially. First up is Choily Design Sprint Pants, then Giro DnD gloves, and then we're gonna be doing a few saddles since I've been having saddle struggles lately that I might just outright give up on. First up, the Choily Design Sprint pants for BMX and mountain bike. I've been looking at mountain bike pants for a while. I didn't think that I would get them or need them or anything, and I happened to find this pair at like 50% off, so I decided to grab it thinking that I might just return it, not sure if I was going to use it. And then the second day I went out, I took a big slide in them and just kind of realized not only that the price is justified, but it's just better to have them than to not have them. I do like these pants, even for the retail price. The pants have a lot of great features, and they don't really have any construction flaws or kind of niche things. They do have some nitpicky things. Most notably is the mesh pockets can really be a pain depending on what you're stashing in there, and if you're trying to reach in and grab it. Most notably would be like your phone to put in there and then take it out and like film your friend or check the trail map and throw it back in. That can be real fidgety, particularly with a phone case on it. And then even worse if you have like gloves, like the new ones I got with the sticky thing, trying to readjust it on the fly. Speaking of fly, the fly is really nice and secure on this, as is the waistband with the adjustability straps. Obviously a classic logo with like a real cool sturdy rubber material, so it doesn't just pop off immediately on the first crash. On your chain side has a very distinct hard panel to resist any chain snagging issues, and then of course the inner panel is more breathable, with the outer panel being more durable to take slides like the one I took. Obviously with this pants, a concern is temperature, weather, climate, all that. I overheat super easily. I don't like getting too hot, ironically, being in Los Angeles. I wore these the other day in like maybe 65-70 degrees, and I was decently comfortable. I think 75 degrees is definitely a limit for pedaling. If you're shuttling or just doing bike park lift access laps, stuff like that, that's kind of up to you. You can just wear it whenever, as hot as you're comfortable with. But if you are pedaling, I would consider, you know, avoiding wearing them at 75 and above. Depends on who you are. I overheat easily, but these weren't that bad, even on days where I was pedaling out and doing my own fire roads to get to the downhill part. They are pretty breathable, but being that they are protective pants, there's only so much breathability they can have. That's up to you on whether you're okay with that or not. Let's move on to the gloves. So my 661s that I like, which are really thin and not necessarily as protective, but really great in like summer, you know, arguably necessary in summer in like SoCal, are starting to fall apart. So I had to get some replacement gloves, and these ones are just so well reviewed on Amazon. I had to try them. They are definitely good gloves, especially for the price. They do have some slightly finicky bits, but that's mostly because of the pull-on design instead of Velcro design, and people not putting in time and effort to break them in and allow them to get better. There's a lot of people in the Amazon reviews saying to buy a size up, I would be really careful with that information and potentially not listen to them. These are people who probably threw the glove on first go and wondered why they didn't feel good the first day. That is because, especially with a pull-on glove, they need to be broken in. Even with Velcro gloves, you need to break them in, but if it's a pull-on system that just has this little panel that stretches, it's going to be a real tight fit. That's that tight fit feeling that you get around the thumb there. And while breaking this in, I've had like slightly calloused fingers, and you experience slight discomfort. It's part of the process, and you can't really skip the process. You can try to warm them up with a hairdryer or heater and go like this to try to stretch the material out. You can try wetting them a little bit and stretching the material out, but ultimately just riding in them and sweating in them is how you break gloves in. And then once you do, these are quite good. The material's great, you know, a little bit more breathable on top, more protective on bottom. The way they designed this rubber is a little bit better on the fingers than stuff you might find at like Fox or other brands, so less likely to peel off. We'll see how long those last. And then of course, cool little rubber on your pull tab to help pull the glove on. Touchscreen capability is finicky. This is kind of the case with all gloves. I know a lot of people are buying gloves specifically to get better touchscreen capability. These ones will not be your awesome touchscreen gloves. These are protective gloves. They don't have any kind of weird material on the fingertips to allow them to be used that way. They do work. It's inconsistent, and it takes a while for you to really see like how you press the button, where you press it for it to work. But especially for the price, $25, these gloves are good. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention, I do like this design. This is very smart design. Starting to see it in more gloves, especially with pull-on where everything's a bit tighter, snug fit. These split parts at the knuckles, which is kind of how motorcycle knee pads are designed. It's a really good idea. You should look for that ideally in gloves. That'll just increase just the snug fit and arguably the durability, because you're not like having a big material stretch there. You have a completely different material underlaying that does the stretching for you. So more protection with less long-term wear and tear. Also, these gloves just look good. They don't look like shit like a lot of other gloves do. Very understated design, simple, but they still do come in a range of colors. Really good glove, especially for pull-on. Now on to the issue that I have been trying to solve and am kind of giving up on. I'm not sure what to do, if I'll go back to fabric or not. So here's the saddle that came on the Vitus bike, just a Nukeproof saddle that is actually very much like a knockoff fabric seat, very similar and good for basic trail rides. On the longer rides, this was obviously an issue because there's no channel, and that was really starting to, even with chamois, wearing chamois shorts, that was kind of taking me off the bike, ending my rides. So I bought this one, which is sort of like the second most reviewed saddle on Amazon. And this channel is pretty sweet. This is a really good channel. It's long and it still has good support on either side. The nose is a little bulky and a little long for if you wanted more of a climb-worthy short nose mountain bike saddle. But the actual issue I had with this saddle is the back. It thins out. If you're a smaller person, I think the seat could be great. But me being about 6 foot and maybe 185, 195 pounds right now, this rear of the saddle, where you might want to rest on those calm parts of the trail when you're not on the middle channel, it's way thinner both in material and it's narrower, it's not as wide. And it was actually unpleasant. It really made it so that I couldn't rest comfortably on flatter parts of the trail, like after a climb, etc. It was not enjoyable, so I tried this thing, this monster. So that was a Nukeproof saddle from the Vitus. This is Wittkop. These are just Amazon brands. This Amazon brand is Velmia. This saddle, as you can see, is not a mountain bike saddle. It is a city commuter saddle, and it simply will not work for my application. So this is just a good example of saddle struggles and sort of what not to do. Unlike the Wittkop, this has tremendous rear saddle support that is ideal for you sitting all the way back into sort of a beach cruiser or city commuter position, sitting upright and really planting your sit bones on the back. The channel is existent, nice, but insufficient. Not going to offer an ideal support platform for sort of leaned over riding, climbing, anything with some kind of aggression to the pedaling. And because the rear is so thick, it's going to push your body positioning forward and reduce how much you're actually able to really use that channel, and it's going to push you onto this really bulky nose. So ultimately you are not meant to enter any sort of aggressive riding stance on these seats. You plant your butt on the back and you have a minimal channel for minimal relief while your butt is planted on the back, and that's it. The minute you drop forward on this, you're essentially not using the saddle correctly and you can experience issues. So this one's great for the back. This one's great for the middle channel, but not the back. And this one's just a basic lightweight saddle that's not really particularly good for anything. It's just what came on the bike. And it's well and good enough for short rides, but you will see shortcomings on these longer rides. So this is probably getting returned, and this is probably getting returned. This one was closer to the one I was going to keep, obviously. It's really close, but the resting is so uncomfortable, and the nose is just a little bit bulkier than I'd like for mountain bike riding. This might be better for not necessarily road riding, but again, more like city commuting and for smaller people. If you took this saddle shape and flared these out a bit more with a bit more foam, and then chopped this nose down a little bit and made it shorter and less kind of intrusive when you get all the way up on that front for climbing, it would be perfect. Very close, but didn't quite hit the mark. Good foam though. Both of these seats with that more memory type foam instead of just hard packed spongy crap. Those are just 3 products. Kind of a really weird mismatch. I'm not going to be doing any more cross-country rides. I gave up that goal because it made me, ironically, not want to ride my bike, which I consider to be a very negative side effect, one that I don't wish to propagate anymore. So those saddles are going back. I think stock saddles going back on for now, and I'm not sure. Maybe fabric, maybe Ergon, although I don't want to spend the money to get an Ergon saddle. Not sure yet. Not a big fan of saddles coming from BMX. I used to just put a freaking piece of plastic on, call it a day. So this is a struggle for me. Downhill pants, recommend them if you can afford them and put up with sort of the heat and discomfort. I love riding in shorts. I didn't want to get these, but second day I rode them, slid down the hill and didn't feel anything. Just got back up, dusted off the dirt and foliage and kept riding. And the gloves. When I first got these, I thought I might return them because of One thing that I forgot to mention was the seams were kind of like on the fingertips, but as they break in a little bit more, they pull back and aren't necessarily on your fingertips and go where they're supposed to be, which is more towards the nail. But the thumbs are, there's a lot of complaints about the thumbs in the reviews. I see what they mean, both in how the seam is sort of more on the finger than the nail, and how strict the sort of crease is there. You have to break in these gloves. Once you break them in proper, I mean, you know, go out on a hot day, sweat in them, everything, and they will feel better. I will not be returning these now. I think they're great, maybe close to my favorite glove I've ever owned. We'll see long term. I do want to try some Dakine gloves, but for now, I do see why these are so well reviewed and popular on Amazon. Well deserved.